the ancient teachings that came from China to Japan in the 12th century, 13th century, talked about Zazen as Shikan Taza. And Shikan means only, or nothing but. So, nothing but, and Ta means just. So, similar meaning. And Za is the same as Za in Zazen. And Za means sitting. So, Shikan, only, Ta, just, sitting. So, it describes a very simple practice which is only just sitting, nothing else. That's the practice that came from China to Japan, which is at the heart of at least one branch of Zen in Japan. So that means in Zazen we don't concentrate on breathing or mantras or thinking or perceiving or anything, which sounds really weird. But if I try to explain the physiology, what Zazen does to our body, it's possible to get some modern understanding of what was meant by the phrase Shikan Taza, just only sitting. Because, as we talked about yesterday, one of the basic beliefs, insistencies of Buddhism, right from many hundreds of years ago, is that body and mind are not two separate things, but they're one. And for modern people, that's quite a strange insistence. For normal, non-practicing people, in modern physiology and increasingly in normal people's understanding, people realise that the mind and the body are closely linked, and you can read lots of information about how the mind affects the body and how the body affects the mind. And it's important to remember that when Buddhism insisted that body and mind are one, it didn't mean there's a body that affects the mind and a mind that affects the body, but the body is the mind is the body. So a thought is a physical thing and an action is a mental thing. There are two sides, just like my hand is a front and a back, but there's a whole hand. And the object, if there is an object of Zazen, is to heal the split between the mental and the physical. And as we know, there's tremendous amount written and spoken about the mental aspects, the spiritual aspects of meditation, also Zazen. But as I said, it's quite rare to hear about the physical aspects. So let's make a start. Sorry, I can't get. If I had a projector onto the wall, I could have done it there. You can look at these. This is our skeleton, and the thing that allows us to be upright is the spine. and our spine is not straight. It's naturally curved. And the spine, as you see on this diagram, is the bones in the spine are joined together by very small, very powerful muscles. And these muscles are in English called the deep extensor muscles. And they join together the vertebrae, so they're between each of the bones, all the way down. And these muscles we can't control. We can't make them tight, we can't make them relaxed consciously. However, they get tense, tight, they contract. And when they contract, we get shorter. And when we get shorter, the spaces between the bones in our spine get smaller. This is not a very good diagram, but this is one vertebra. This is the next one. This is the next one. And so on. Down the middle, through a hole in the vertebra, runs part of our brain. We didn't know it was part of our brain until maybe 50, 60 years ago. But now people know that the spinal cord is part of the brain.
Micha, česky. Micha. Okay. Micha in Czech. Micha.
Micha. Okay. And this is like a cable, like an internet cable. This is the main internet trunk, and from the internet trunk all the signals go. The signals go along these wires to our houses, okay? So high-speed internet and so on. So these are nerves. This is quite a simple diagram, it's more complicated, but we can think of these nerves as if they are water tubes, because actually nerves send signals to all the different parts of our body, but the signals are not exactly electrical signals like internet, they're chemical signals through a tube. If you know much more about nerves, please forgive my simple explanation. If you have a tube of water coming from the tap across here, and somebody puts their foot on it, the water slows down. Or if somebody stands on it, the water stops. The same thing happens with these nerve signals. They come out from the central spine, they go to all the different organs in our body, and if we could pinch them, and some people have what in English is called a trapped nerve in their spine. This often happens if the disc between this cushion between the vertebrae, if it deteriorates with age or because of an accident, then the bones get closer together. And for the nerves, it's like stepping on the hose pipe, so the water doesn't come out properly. So in the extreme case, if we have damage, the nerve signals are trapped, and often you get pain. One very common pain is called in English sciatica. There's a big nerve that comes out here and then runs under the muscles and down the leg. And many people, when they get older, because their posture is bad, they get pain down the leg. And it's terrible. I have a friend who has sciatica, and it's due to the nerves which are trapped here. I have nerves which are trapped lower down. They are pinched together because the gap between the bones is deteriorated with age, and because I was running down mountains a lot, something like this. So the result is the nerve signal going to my feet is very bad. So my feet are numb. Not completely, but just like somebody stepping on the hose pipe, so there's not enough water. So both my feet are kind of, do you know, numb?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I can't feel 100%. Mm-hmm. Now that's an extreme case, but we can affect the flow of the nerve signals simply if we sit like this for half an hour, or if we sit like this for half an hour, or if we sit like this at work all the time, or if we're always talking to our neighbour like this. All these actions, if they continue for some time, affect the nerve signals, which go to all the different organs in our body. So if you want to look closely, here is a diagram. This is the spinal cord. They put two so that you can make the diagram clearer. And these are all the different organs in the body. All these organs, heart, lungs, stomach, intestines, even eyes, hearing, are all controlled through these hose pipes, right? Coming from the spine. Everything comes from the spine. There are no signals that come from the brain to an organ other than the signals from the spine. At the top of the spine, the middle of the spine, the bottom of the spine, different kind of nerves come. And scientists discovered that the nerves near the top of the spine, in the neck, and nerves at the bottom of the spine control whether our organs are active or passive. So the nerves at the top and the bottom make our organs passive or slow down. So they make our breathing slow down. They make our heart rate slow down. They make our saliva in our mouth. They make our stomach relaxed. And the nerves in the middle part do the opposite. They make our heart rate increase. They make our eyes contract. They make our breathing faster. They make our body hot. So really, where these nerves come out in this very simple diagram, the way these nerves come out is critical to all the workings of our body. And that means that the way we hold our spine, our posture, is critical to our well-being and our health. If our spine is not pinching those nerves, we're not stepping on the hose pipe, then everything works quite well. But if we have a habit or we have stress that causes our spine to become shorter, and if that habit continues day after day, there is a serious long-term effect on our health and on our mood and on our thoughts and on our appetite and everything. These little muscles between the vertebrae are also controlled by these nerves. So, what I want to try and give you a picture is that if our posture is natural, so that our spine can be as long as possible, it's not pushed down, then we're healthy, happy, mentally and physically. But in our modern daily life, many things disturb us. And things that disturb us from the mental area, from our thoughts, make our muscles contract. So the spine becomes shorter, so the signals to our heart, to our stomach. So, for instance, if we're very nervous because we have a new job, yeah, and stomach, and in extreme cases we have to go to the toilet.
No, that was okay.
Okay, Caroline started doing that. Sorry, you're a good example. So what about what's the problem? Okay, the problem is our spine is not under our conscious control. Of course, we can be conscious of how we're sitting, but it's more than that, because the spine becomes unconsciously tense, and that affects everything in our body. So we have to find a way to let the spine return to normal. What's normal? Well, these little muscles can let go. The nerves, the water can come out of the pipes normally. Same amount this side, same amount that side. So how can we do that? Well, any kind of activity is helping. And we know now that there are certain activities which seem to have a powerful effect. In yoga, people talk about letting the back be long, or letting this, it's the same thing. In lots of different kinds of body work. One which I know about is called Alexander technique. And the aim of the Alexander technique is to stop making our spine shorter, let it be longer, let the head go up, and so on. And when we sit in Zazen, it's the same activity. Because when we sit on a cushion, all our weight is balanced over the bottom of our spine. I have a diagram. So this is called the pelvis in English. This is the leg bones, somebody standing. So the weight of the spine is pushed outwards, and this is called the sacrum.
Křížová nebo styčka?
Sacrum.
Křížová. Okay.
Sacrum. Okay.
Křížová.
And
Sacrum.
there is a joint. The sacrum is not part of this pelvis. It's joined together, and these two joints here are very, very important. Actually, the sacrum, this part, can only move about 4 or 5 millimeters. But if it can't move, and for many, many people, this joint is very solid because their muscles around this area became very tense over many years, and they can't make the muscles relax. So this joint becomes fixed. So when this joint becomes fixed here and here, the spine can't have quite the same freedom at the bottom. So you're not quite as free down here. And it's a very common situation. In English, this is called the sacroiliac joint. And if you know about osteopathy and massage, you know that this is a very important joint. Even though it's not like a big movement, it's just a very small movement, but it gives the freedom to the bottom of the spine. So why do we need freedom? So that when we sit, our spine can, at the bottom, where all the force is coming, can find the right position. So one way to keep this joint healthy is to open the legs. When we open the legs, when we sit in Zazen or in yoga, and also sit with the legs open, you're opening that joint and allowing the muscles around the joint to relax. And then the bottom of the spine, good, it's okay. So we can say that to open the legs is very helpful to letting the spine find a natural position. Whether you sit in like this, Burmese, or you sit like this, full lotus position, or you sit like half like that, there are 2 or 3 different postures, is not critical. If you sit in full lotus posture, it's very solid, very stable. It feels very stable. If you sit halfway, sometimes your pelvis is like this, a little. Mm-hmm. And you can feel it. Mm-hmm. So then you change over next time. Mm-hmm. But if you are free enough to sit in full lotus, you can find the middle. But it's not critical. And you can sit in Burmese position, which I sit in Burmese position because I can't do like this anymore. So in Burmese position, you can pretty well sit not like this, but like this, fairly easily. But you need to find a position which is okay for you, because our legs are all different. Some people have big muscles here, some people have thin legs, some people have long legs, short legs. Japanese people have very long bodies and very short legs. It's in the DNA. If you look at pictures of Japanese people, you can see it's different ratio. So it makes it a little bit easier to sit. So then we've got the bottom, we've got the pelvis is open, so this joint is happy. Then we keep the body balanced, which means not to the back, not to the front, not to the left, not to the right, but balanced. And then that's the best we can do for our spine. The weight is transmitted from each place. We're not twisted one way, we're not twisted the other way, so the water is flowing from the pipes. Then the head is often a problem for us, because some people naturally, maybe I naturally, head is a bit forward, and many people have a habit of a head forward. Yeah, and then
don't look at me.
I wasn't looking at you. I was looking through them. No, you don't.
I imagined myself.
No, but you know. So if
Sure.
all day at work you're
Of
like
course.
this, then when you practice
It
Zazen,
hurts. Oh.
you're like this.
Yeah.
And I can notice people, for one day they're like that, the second day they're like that, third day they're like that. So you can see people's spine relaxing. And so we drop off the habits of our daily life physically, because the muscles relax, which is the same as mentally. So the bottom of the spine is in the right position. We try to keep the weight of our head over our shoulders. It's nice to be aware of what our neck is like normally and what our daily habits are like. You know, some people love to sit like this. You know, it's nice. So if you sit like that every day, the muscles on this side and the muscles on this side become used to it. And then if you sit like that, they say, oh, something wrong here. It should be like that. They do. So, what can we do about the head? Well, if you notice people, dancers, it's very clear in dancers when they're doing exercises, beautiful young bodies, they're all standing there, and it's like they've got strings at the top of their heads. They're taught to stand like that, to lift up their body, to lift up their head, because it frees the spine, and they need a free spine to dance. So we need to free our spine. It doesn't actually matter, really, whether we use Zazen to free our spine, But the people who passed on the practice of Zazen through the ages noticed that it's a very powerful way. It's not the only way. For instance, yoga is a very powerful way. Any kind of sport where you're not fixing your habit, you're not staying in one posture, must help. So really you can say anything that helps our spine to lengthen, helps our nervous system to find a balance between the passive signals and the active signals. So not too excited, not too depressed, somewhere in the middle. And what Dogen, the 13th century monk who I studied for 30 years, wrote was, there are millions of different ways to practice balance, but Zazen is the standard way for him. So everybody can choose how they practice balance. I don't mind how people practice balance, but for me the important thing is balance, and balance is connected with posture. However, we can't, can't live like this all the time. You go to sleep like this, don't you? I woke up this morning, my shoulder hurt because I was lying on it, and my neck is twisted because of the pillow, and so. Does that make you balanced? So, in real life, I mean, it's wonderful. What I said is fantastic, but in real life, it's not like that, because we do sit like this. We do like to cross our legs. We do sleep curled up in a ball. We do get stressed at work. We do look at the computer like this. So we need to practice every day something that balances us. And if we practice it every day, we can kind of cope with the imbalances. I watched a very nice documentary about a ballet dancing school the other day, and it's about the lives of young dancers who are training to be ballet dancers. And there's one excerpt. There's a young man who's maybe 18, 19 years old, and he's nearly completely trained, and his teacher, who's a choreographer, is helping him to learn to dance this dance. And in the dance he has to be some kind of devil god, so he has to twist his body like this, so I mean, I should have been a dancer, and every time he tries it, he kind of falls over. And suddenly his teacher says to him, "Go with the imbalance, embrace the imbalance." Then she says, balance is a collection of imbalances. It's true in dancing and it's true in life as well. So embrace the imbalances. So as an expert dancer, she learned that there is a kind of balance in dancing which is formed of lots of little imbalances. And she saw that her life was the same. So it's fine to talk about a perfect spinal position and no stress and nice posture and balance, but actually in our real life the balance is not a perfection, it's a collection of imbalances. And I often use the example of riding a bicycle. To ride a bicycle, you need to wobble. Or if you're skating on ice, to skate on ice, you're balanced, but you're wobbling. So without small imbalances, you can't be balanced. So we shouldn't worry that, oh, my posture's not good, I'm stressed today. What Dogen says is, if we practice balance every day, our lives will be balanced. So we don't need to worry about it. So it's a very simple, it's almost stupid insistence. Just practice balance and your life will become balanced. This is what he writes in the 13th century. And my life is often unbalanced in the moment, but overall I feel my life has a balance to it because I practice every day. So I recommend you to practice balance every day. Whatever your chosen method is, practice it. And I think it's very helpful to understand the body for this, especially because so many teachings are only spiritual these days. But the spiritual side is one side. There's another side. So we should look at both sides. Then we can find a balanced point of view. And although my explanation was rather simple and not so perfect, it's based on physical research. I didn't invent it. So if you read in medical books or neurological research, you can find the same facts. And for instance, they're finding many facts now. For instance, our stomach is a kind of brain which sends signals back up the spine here, as well as opposite way around. But all this research is always centered on the nerves in the spine. This is the critical part. So after a day or two, if we sit in Zazen, whether our legs hurt or not, whether our back is painful or not, whether our mind is busy or not, after 2 or 3 days, something settles. Because we are practicing balance physically. And that's the explanation we can give for what the ancient teachers called only just sitting, or it's all in the posture. I don't mean that mind is not important. We can switch over and just look at the mental side of everything. And there are many different kinds of therapies now that can help us to deal with our mental problems, and many kind of medical treatments. So we can switch over and talk about the mental area, but today I wanted to talk about the physical area. So if you want to look at any of these in detail, you can find lots of diagrams on the internet, and you can find lots of research now, scientific papers saying mindfulness meditation makes you calmer, or sitting in meditation helps digestion, and on and on and on. And these are all physical explanations for practicing balance. So I can stop now. Does it make sense? Is it logical?
Yes.
Does it agree with science?
This is science, yes.
Profound.
Profound.
Is it? Oh, well, no, it's not profound. I'm working on it. We all come to meditation from different directions. In my case, I came from physical activity, so I did lots of mountaineering, and in mountaineering I found balance. I didn't know what it was. I had no idea. Just I knew that I liked it, and afterwards I felt really balanced, kind of free, kind of happy. And then I went to work in Japan and met my teacher, and he started talking about, had very poor English in 1977, so I had to listen again and again and again. And then I realized, oh, he's explaining what I experienced. I see. And then I found that sitting in Zazen, I could get the same state as climbing the Himalayas. That's weird. So then I was hooked. I was hooked by Buddhism. So I came from the physical side. I didn't have an interest in Buddhist philosophy or spiritual things at all. But other people come to Buddhism from another direction, and they've investigated lots of spiritual teachings, and they want to find some basis for it. But unfortunately, I don't have much experience of that. I'm quite a physical person. But there we go.
May I say something a bit different?
Yeah.
Beside the part physical and mental of our mind and body, there seems to be another important organization, which is our microbiome in the lower digesting system. And recently the scientists found a huge effect on mood. And
yeah.
By the way, in Japan it's known that they eat a lot of fermented soya and kimchi and all the things. And also in Europe we have traditions of fermented cabbage and many things, and fermented dairy products.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of a balance when
Yes.
different cultures, because there are thousands of tribes which live in our digesting system.
Yes. In English it's called the enteric system. And there's lots of new research.
Yes.
People didn't understand.
More and more.
What we eat has a huge effect on us. On what we eat affects what we think. How can that happen? Well, people are discovering that it does. Yeah, it's very interesting. What's sauerkraut in Czech?
Kyselé
Kyselé zelí.
Kyselé zelí.
Yeah.
Nebo kysané.
Kysané.
Kysané. So that seems to be an important part of people's diet. It may be the reason why the English people are too aggressive. We're a little bit that way because we don't eat sauerkraut and things like the cheese we had for breakfast, and we don't have any foods like that anymore in England. That kind of fermented curds or kysané zelí and so on disappeared from the English diet. So
you have something like kefir, like fermented milk.
It just started to become very popular.
Yeah.
So it came.
Maybe yogurt with lactobacillus.
Yeah, when Matilda and Graham came, they found kefir, and Matilda was overjoyed. Wow, this is fantastic! Because it's disappeared from the English diet.
What is buttermilk? What is buttermilk?
Buttermilk is
It's quite similar.
Is it?
Here.
I think so.
That's what we were buying when we were in England.
Oh, okay. It's not so well known. But if you go to a health food shop,
it was
It's
in the supermarkets.
Was it?
Yeah,
Supermarket,
Okay.
Honey.
Podmáslí možná.
Yeah, maybe it's a different kind of.
Podmáslí jenom
It's not the same as kefir. It's also acidic milk.
Yeah.
When you make butter, this
Yeah.
is the red is podmáslí. I think this is buttermilk.
Okay.
Podmáslí.
Okay.
I don't know if it is fermented or not,
Yeah,
but kefir is
might not
something
be.
another. It is fermented.
Okay.
Some, here is for example Kafkaský kefir. They put some bacteria or some mushroom, I don't know.
Okay.
And it makes the reaction.
In those bottles that
yes,
you showed
yes,
me.
yes. Down is very
Okay.
good. Fantastic.
Great.
Ten kozí kefir.
Well, I'm maybe I'm not so familiar in England with what's available, but I grew up. When I grew up in England, there was nothing like that. It was a very plain diet with no traditional foods. I don't know what happened to traditional foods. So I think that's why English people are so obstinate. Or, it's only to explain my own character.
They require a lot of meat now.
Yeah, a lot of meat, yeah. And carbohydrate. Yeah. What about honey? What does honey do for us?
Honey is an interesting mixture of many things, mainly sugars, more sugars, fructoses, glucoses, also saccharoses, it's inside, and many other sugars, vitamins, pollen, enzymes, if it's not too high temperature during some process, and maybe some undiscovered things from the bees. So but the main part are sugars.
And it is fermented? No, it is not. It can't be considered as fermented.
There is an inversion of the more difficult sugars into simple sugars, which is done by invertase inside bee's stomach.
Yeah, maybe.
So there is one interesting chemical process, and then, but it must not be fermented because of more than 20% water. So you must tightly close the jar, otherwise it absorbs aerial humidity, and on the top of the surface it may ferment it, but it's not good for honey. But
yes.
medovina, then it's the other way, where you add water inside and you let it ferment and you have alcoholic beverage. Medovina.
Oh, yeah, I had some of that. Again, we don't have a honey tradition in England. There's honey, but it's just honey, you know, one kind of honey. But we don't have honey drink. We used to have, 100 years ago, a drink was called mead.
Yeah.
Med.
But you can, I don't think you can, maybe you can get it in the health food shop now, I don't know. So many things to think about now. We have to practice balance every day, not worry about imbalances. We have to make sure we're eating the right things because they affect our brain. We have to make sure that what we're reading about agrees with the four criteria. It's too much. It's too much. And then we want to run away. Yeah. So that's okay, run away. See, it's quite interesting to me that the Japanese diet has many different things, many different kinds of food. And compared with the English diet, the Czech diet, for me, has many different kinds of food, different types of food. And I find the similarity between Czech people and Japanese people. I wonder if it's something to do with what you eat. My brain has started thinking that.
So we should stop now.
Okay. So balance is a collection of imbalances.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.